We will kick off today's episode with our guest speaker pitching why you should listen to our podcast and follow our journey. Let's get started, folks.
We live in the 21st century and we have so much technology, so many resources, and so much knowledge right at our fingertips. There has never been another moment in time where an average, everyday man has the resources that you and I have right now. Imagine all the potential, all of the impact you can make with this. But while that's also a blessing, it also tends to be a curse because there's so much white noise around that it makes it incredibly difficult to find what matters to you. What do you think is important? What do you want to spend your time, your energy, and your efforts on? I think that the people in the green roof really have a vision to see how they want to impact the world. And I think with this podcast, you get an opportunity to meet some of them, to get a sliver of how they view the world and their lens. And I hope that that can inspire you to find your why, to find your reason, and to make an impact the best way you see fit.
Welcome to an episode of Young Entrepreneurs with the Green Roof team of Southern Illinois University Carbondale. We are a cross-university team of young, innovative minds positively impacting the landscape of SIU Carbondale through promoting and installing clean energy. Here, we are highlighting our team's activities and impact through our members, sponsors, and supporters, as well as discussing a new, interesting topic. So buckle up, because we are driving to a more sustainable future.
Today, we have a special guest, Tanner Clark, part of the Green Roof team. How are you doing today, Tanner?
I'm doing excellent, Nelson. Thank you for asking.
So to get today's episode kicked off, would you like to tell the audience a bit about who you are and where you're from?
Yep. So as Nelson said, my name is Tanner. I'm from Strasbourg, Illinois, teeny tiny village in Shelby County, Illinois, about 20 minutes north of Effingham. By small, I mean less than 500 people, just to give you that kind of scale. So close-knit communities is something that's really important to me. People knowing your name, having relationships with your neighbors, so that they're people you care about, people that you have a little bit of accountability to, because you're all in this together. Also, growing up there, I really learned to appreciate freedom because I was very fortunate to not have very many limits on what I could do growing up. I could go wherever I wanted as long as I was within, yelling distance from my mom so she could tell me to get back home. That was basically the one rule. Otherwise, the streets were mine, and I was able to figure it out. There's not much to do in Strasbourg, but you make your own fun. But that also gave me opportunities as I was growing up to apply myself and find those connections and get working at an early age as well. So I'm all very hands-on, find your way, learning alongside other people. So that's a lot of what motivates me to do what I do, and I think it's a big part of who I am.
That's incredible. I know the first time I heard about the population of your hometown, I'm thinking to myself, oh, that's about the size of my high school.
Yeah. And then thinking about my high school too, there was, I believe I graduated with 31 students in my class, so it's just, I love meeting people down here at Southern and talking about them and seeing where they're from. And occasionally I do find somebody who came from my size, but usually when people are thinking small town, they think less than 10,000, which is a different, at least in my eye, it's still an order of magnitude above. And then you talk about being from Chicago or any kind of vaguely metropolitan area, and I can't even fathom some of that, So it's very interesting to meet people and see those perspectives and see different ways of life, different values as well. It's really interesting to just talk to people about those things.
So with your community at home, were there any larger events where it brought a good chunk of the town together.
Yes. So something that I really got to cherish being in Strasbourg is how intentional people have to be to try and get together and get something going. I think a good example of that is the Strasbourg Community Action Network. It's called SCAN. That was started in sometime between 2007 and 2010, I want to say, because I was in elementary school at the time, and Strasbourg I know was really in a huge slump at that time. You had the Great Recession, and there was already a lot of things that weren't going in the town's favor because it's what you'd call a sleeper community. You go home, you sleep, you wake up, you go somewhere else to work. Like typically you go to Effingham, maybe Shelbyville. It's a place people like to stay in physically, but then to work there and then to live there is something that needs to be worked on. It needs to be intentional because you have a great potential for a culture in a place like that, but sometimes it doesn't get realized. Yeah, I do think that it takes people to have that vision and to try and apply yourself. So that's why SCAN was created. So they do a lot of various service activities, like Main Street Makeover is something they do. So they get community members out and they'll clean up Main Street, pull out weeds, put in new gravel, and take care of other things in other community areas too, like the park and things like that. They're actually working on doing a whole bunch of stuff with the park, and I hope that stuff gets going well to keep getting funds raised. And they find intentional ways to do that. Got a lot of mentors there, and I got a lot of mentors with the Lions Club as well. Is another community organization that I've been affiliated with since about high school. To get back to your question on like events though and getting together, biggest one is definitely homecoming. Homecoming happens. It's one of the weekends in July. I want to say usually the second weekend in July, and that is really like the time that I think Strasbourg gets together to really attract people, bring people in. Usually the big thing, there's a lot of meals put together out at the park under the pavilion, and the big thing is the tractor pull. Yeah, so getting a whole bunch of farmers, it's the middle of the summer, so their crops are already in the field, so then everybody brings their tractors over. You hook it up to a huge sled, and you literally just see how far you can pull this giant sled down about a 300-foot track, I believe. And people watch that for fun, and they just talk and drink all day long. And then they've got like festivities going on for the rest of the day too, but it all kind of goes around that. They've got kids games. The past couple of years, I've organized a 5K for the homecoming. So that's where we try and jam everything like the best that Strasbourg has to offer, I think, goes into that day. SCAN, I know they also do like a car show and other things like that. So there are opportunities, but I would say that it comes much less frequently than if you're in like a big place with many things going on at once. But it takes a lot of effort on people's parts to really generate something that people want to come out to. But because it's hard, it makes it all the more worthwhile. So and that's something that I definitely cherish as I've been brought up, that I do have a community of leaders and of civil servants that want to make the community better.
It's awesome to hear. And before we head into the hard-hitting questions, a tractor pull.
Yes.
So you have a tractor.
Yes.
A sled's tied to it. You go down 300 meters.
Not meters, probably. I'm trying to remember it's feet or yards. It's probably yards, But
So you go down a straight, and then
you go down a
what
straight.
happens? Does the tractor like go to the side, and you see the sled fly away, or
Well, so this is a really, really big sled. Most of these, so if you've got, it gets more complicated than like, I guess this is a tractor, but it boils down to a tractor pulling a sled down a patch of dirt. Um, there are different like classes, yeah, weight classes, you might say. So if you've got most people, and they've got their own projects, like farmers being mechanics working on their pulling tractor. A lot of local tractor pulls, they have a speed limit. Could be anywhere from like 4 to 8 miles per hour. So, like, yeah. In all honesty, I personally find it kind of boring. I'm not gonna lie, and that's kind of a little sacrilegious in my family because like so my grandpa, actually both sides of my family farm. I come from farming communities. It's what I was around, and my on my mother's side, my grandpa in particular, he's big into tractor pulls. He's very mechanically minded. He used to like repair combine harvesters and things like that. So and he used to, and so that's what he does. He works on those. I know. I think when I was 16, he was like, "Yeah, we're gonna need to get you on one of these things, get you pulling." And I just told him like, "I don't know. I'm honestly not that interested in it, because it's like." On the one thing, it's kind of sad because like this is something he's really interested in. He's really into this stuff, but I'm just not, But I do enjoy it, going out and seeing him, and I enjoy that other people enjoy it, because it brings other things around, and it's still something that can bring the community together. So there's like farmers who do it, and then there's also like professional pulling as well. So my uncle, he actually builds tractor pulling engines in Arthur with this company. So he does like machine work for them and things like that. And he I don't believe he has anything going with it right now, although I could be wrong about that. But I know a few years back he actually competed at the state fair, the state competition, and yeah, like it basically boils down to how much money you want to put into all this stuff, because then you will get tractors that are going like super fast down there, and then you get like trucks too. Trucks go fast. They'll do semi pulls. I've heard of like 4-wheeler pulls, and then there's like lawn tractor pulls. Basically, farmers have come up with a million and one ways to find entertainment in pulling a sled down a dirt track. So
sweet.
Yeah, that's a tractor pull.
No, it's awesome to hear about tractor pulls. I know where I'm from, never ever came up at all.
Yeah.
So transitioning to like SIU, is being around all the machinery why you chose mechanical engineering, or is there another reason?
Well, it definitely, I'm sure it had an influence into it. More the direct story though goes back to community college specifically for me. So to preface that, I'm a senior here at SIU in mechanical engineering, going to graduate in May. I transferred here last year from Lakeland College up by Mattoon, Illinois, about 20 minutes east of Strasbourg. So there I originally went with the intent to transfer to the U of I for chemical engineering, because like chemistry was something I thought I was decent at, and like energy production and management was also something that interested me. So you could go, I guess my thought was I could be working at a power plant, or I could be working in like agricultural processing as well, like ADM processing like soybeans or what have you. So those were kind of the things that I was thinking of. Didn't have too much of a plan though. Honestly, it just kind of sounded nice, and it was something to tell people to say that I had a plan, But while I was at Lakeland, I got a lot of those similar sentiments and that similar environment that I felt I got at Strasbourg. So you really have a close knit community, and you've got local people at Lakeland as well. Oddly enough, there are a lot of people from Strasbourg, even though it's like 500 some people that work at Lakeland. You know, just I guess some odd coincidence there, but you had a lot of people there who wanted to invest in like southeast central Illinois. You know, they really focused on wanting to try and retain people like their graduates in that area too. So so they come back and they contribute and they build something in the area, because unfortunately people don't think of much of anything when they think of that part of the state. But there are things to offer because there are good people there. So being in that sort of small environment, I got connected to a lot of good local companies who were wanting to invest in local people as well, because they knew that they were more likely to stay because they have these connections. One of those companies was Hydrogear. So I interned with Hydrogear after my freshman year at Lakeland. I was doing materials style work for them. So they create hydrostatic transmissions for zero-turn lawnmowers. So if you have a zero-turn lawnmower, there's like a 90+% chance that the wheels turn because of Hydrogear. So I did material science stuff for them. I would perform tests on different components, put them under various stresses, see how they would perform. Then I would go back to the engineers and like recommend components for them to use in their designs. So that was more mechanical engineering style work. Okay, so I did that, and I was still on the chemical engineering track of sorts. But then I thought, this could be a real possibility as well. So then Gabe Allen, he was president of Baja a couple of years back, and he graduated from SIU in mechanical engineering just this last year. He's my brother-in-law now, but him and I were talking at that time, and he was like, mechanical engineering might be more applicable to what you would want to do, and it is more widely applicable as well in chemical engineering. So he thought that I ought to consider that, and then he also thought that I should, consider looking at Carbondale, So that's all that kind of led me here, you might want to say. So I kind of got lost on all that, but what was your original question, though?
Wow. That's a great story about how you ended up in Carbondale.
Yeah.
So now being here in your second year in Carbondale, have you seen similar communities? Probably not like how home was, because home was much, from what I'm getting at, much more close-knit. But have you seen something similar here in Carbondale develop?
I would say yes. So the one thing with, I guess, going to living in Strasbourg my whole life, and like going to Stewartson Strasbourg High School, and just elementary school, like I grew up with those same 30 or so kids I graduated with for like 13 years, So there are bonds there that just take time. But on the flip side of that, it's interesting coming here and seeing how you can connect with people from across the state and across the world. And Green Roof is obviously an excellent example of that. We've got some of the brightest and best individuals, not even at Carbondale, but like across the United States, and beyond. So we've got people with connections all across the world that you can still connect with, and that we still find common ground with. A lot of us are interested in sustainability and alternative energy and transforming just like one space now, but taking that knowledge and learning. We all want to learn and improve our skills. That's really the common thread that I see with everyone, and taking that through entrepreneurship and through innovation into new and exciting ways. And to have that diversity of thought around me is such a blessing. I usually say that like I am the product of the excellence around me, if I'm going to surround myself with excellent people, with hardworking people, I'm going to reflect those traits, those characteristics. I pick that up from like music, I think. So like if I'm singing or if I'm like playing like trombone or whatever instrument next to somebody who's better than me, I just feel like I play better because I feel like it pushes me to the task. Even like with running too. I used to run the 800 back in high school. Really a really intense race in my humble opinion, But I always wanted to be around people that I knew were going to smoke me because they would drag me along, and it'd be my best shot to hit a personal record, So I see that same culture. I see that same culture in the Green Roof and other places at SIU as well, to really push me to be more than what I thought, or to get out of my comfort zone a little bit, because taking that risk and taking on that stress 9 times out of 10 is worthwhile and really gives you something to gain.
Most definitely. Like I heard a quote where you're most like the 5 closest people you're around, and that's a similar, like, spot on. If you're around people who are better than you, you're going to grow even more. If you're in a room and you're the smartest person, there's a bit of an issue right there. There's tough time to learn,
and that's not a bad thing, because it gives you an opportunity to teach other people. Because it's not all just about you. It's not all about personal growth. It's about serving other people as well. And I mean, teaching is for sure something great that the Green Roof team focuses on a lot. It's like, how can we teach our other members, and how can we apply this knowledge in a new way, So that's it. Not a bad thing, but you always want to keep looking as well, because if you're right all the time, and if you're teaching somebody, once again, you're not gaining. You're not.
So with the Green Roof team, could you elaborate a bit about the different projects you're on and what you've been doing towards the greater goal?
Yes. So the main project that I've been working with is the disaster resilient turbine, or as we affectionately call it, the trash turbine. The idea there is that we are creating a turbine that can be made out of common household items that can be assembled quickly, ideally under 48 hours. If we can meet those requirements, that would make it applicable to disaster relief. So if there's been a natural disaster, the electrical grid's been taken out, you can assemble this and you can generate energy. You can harness energy from your surroundings, from what is around you, so that you can charge small electrical devices like your phone, create useful work from that, And that is something that definitely intrigues me, and I think is just a mindset that should be applied more in our world. So, I mean, most recently with that, I've been designing the wind turbine blades, looking at the feasibility of different shapes, and Chris, one of the other guys on the team, him and I are going to be building those blades very soon, get to testing, and we're very excited to see where that goes, because obviously this is a huge part of the project. If we can't harness power from the wind, we're kind of dead in the water or dead in the air or whatever. So yeah, it's exciting to get tackling that issue. Besides that, I'm also working on the redesign of our current wind turbine that we have up on the Green Roof itself. We want to change up the blades on that from being a vertical axis to a horizontal axis wind turbine, with a more typical shape of what you might think. I'm looking into materials on that side, hopefully looking at how we can use carbon fiber laminate techniques, 3D print a mold, and then create carbon fiber blades from that, and see the feasibility, see the cost of those things. So exciting stuff all the way around.
So essentially, one project is focused on the common everyday person manufacturing it, while the other is a higher quality.
Correct.
So
yes.
What do you see as being the primary challenge between working on both the projects in comparison?
Fortunately, I do see a a lot of like crosswork and cross benefit in both of them, because going into this, I didn't really know much of anything about wind generation. I had interests in it, like watching YouTube videos on different alternate energy production stuff, but I had never tried to apply it in a meaningful way. So it's good to see some of those similarities. Then when you get into the details of it itself, then you do have some fundamental differences. So like with the trash turbine, we're using a vertical axis because that way you don't need to create the yaw, and you shouldn't need a gearbox. You can keep everything. It's simpler because simplicity is the name of the game with that project. It's got to be as simple as possible so that you can create it in a variety of ways. We can't specialize anything. The more broad we make it, the better. Meanwhile, with the turbine on the green roof, kind of the exact opposite. We are making a one of a kind system there. We can still apply that to other things, and we definitely will. But we're making something specialized for that one scenario, and we're creating those blades. Once again, then you also got the horizontal axis, so it does work a little differently. So the priorities and the constraints, especially if we're thinking in a design standpoint, are different among the two. But then when you get down to the most fundamentals of it all, it's still the same. We're still trying to harness kinetic energy from the wind as efficiently as possible, just given different contexts.
So with all of these projects, and specifically the disaster turbine, the trash turbine,
Yes.
could you reiterate what the big why is? Like, why did you join this project, and what do we see at the end of it all?
I think the why behind it is really giving people more ownership of their lives again. We are so reliant in this day and age on electricity. Electricity is this wonderful, magical thing that nobody understands. Okay, the electrical engineers, they're lying to you. All right, they don't know how it works, but it just works. So there's this stuff that requires these huge infrastructural systems that need all this cooperation to keep running. It's phenomenal, and it really is. Like the U.S. electrical grid's been running for what, like 100 years going on at this point, and it's still kicking. There are some problems with it, but it's still going. But especially in other parts of the world, that reliability is not there. Especially like in the Caribbean, which is one of the areas that we're targeting with this. And in many ways, the people who live there are at the whims of things out of their control. And that has such a huge impact on our lives. The internet requires electricity. All of this knowledge at our fingertips requires electricity. If you can transform the energy around you that's free into that stuff, that's a game changer. Imagine how empowering that is to people when they have the ability to communicate with others, when they have the ability to still get online, still find knowledge. How can we change the world by enabling other very gifted, talented, capable people with the same resources that you and I have? I think that just is a game changer in so many ways. So that's, I think, a huge reason behind making Turbine out of trash.
Shit, that gave me goosebumps right there.
Yeah,
Got chills all over.
There you go.
Before we begin wrapping up for today, do you have any last thoughts or comments you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I would just say, whether you're making a turbine out of trash, or whether you want to make a transformation in your community and bring people together, however you want to serve, be bold with it, and don't be bashful. You might not know the way that things are going, the way that they're going to turn out. And you can't control it all, but you can still put forth the effort and you can still try. You don't have to be subject to the whims of other people and subject to the whims of factors that are out of your control. You know, like if you don't have electricity, all right, well, let's generate some electricity. Okay. If you see this problem, this monumentous task, let's try and break it up. Let's see what we can do to identify these things, because you are incredibly capable. You just might not realize that yet. So just take things one step at a time, and then before you know it, you'll have gone so incredibly far.
And with that, we conclude our episode of Young Entrepreneurs with the Green Roof team. Special thanks to your sponsors, the SIU Research Park, Energy at SIU Sustainability Office's Green Fund Grant, the University Innovation Fellows, CH Electrical, Enertech, Raz Coatings, AES Solar, Sprague Supply Group, H&F Visions, Silvix Forestry and Nursery, Nether Chance Studios, Climate Economy Action Network, and many more. And please visit our website for more information and follow us on social media. Stay sustainable, folks.